Testing. Hello. Right. Works. So you'll need Blender, crowbar, and Blender source tools. Add-on. I will include everything in the description. So let's start with Blender. Make it 6. Gonna shade it smooth and use hard normals. Then I'm gonna intrude the faces and bridge edge loops. Alright, so we have our basic model. Okay. Material or textures. The texture name, the material name should be your texture name. Also, the textures are not exported to VTF, so you will have to do that manually. So go 0 for to shading and use textures. Go 0 for. You use the textures only to see how it looks, how it fits with the UV. Smart. Okay. And we're done. Next, tutorial. Next, we will need collision. So to make collision, I'm gonna duplicate it and change the name here to tutorial. Is hide the original mesh and disable hard normals, because collision can only have one smoothing group. So shade smooth, and let's see how it goes. Select the folder, export both of files, tutorial. Oops. Tutorial. See, I'm gonna include it. Is static prop. That's really important. So if you're making a static prop, you need to have static prop. If you're making an animated model, you don't need static prop. Static prop is really important. So we're gonna compile. I'm gonna include this reference for you to use in the description later. A crowbar. You can set up it yourself. There is like plenty of source games here you can choose from. I'm doing it for bridge climbing, but you can do it for whatever game you want. And our model, our QC file here, tutorial, and compile. Okay, now we're gonna look if it compiled correctly. And there it is. We're pressing physics and we have our collision mesh. But notice something. Our collision doesn't do the hole because it's a concave. Everything is connected, and to make it more precise, we're gonna separate each piece individually or split it and then fill the gaps. So split, press F to fill it. So now the gaps are filled. Hide. I'm gonna do that for each piece. And there we go. Now we export. You can export everything or export only the mesh selected. So it doesn't really matter because I didn't change anything there. I'm gonna export both of them and recompile it. Refresh, and there we go. We have now a hole that you can pass through or shoot through or whatever you want through. Okay, now we are done with static mesh. Let's move on to animating. We don't need collision anymore. Animated collisions don't exist in Source Engine, or at least I don't know how to do them. So I'm gonna show you what I know. Okay, we're gonna look at it from the X side. Select our mesh. Shift A, add an armature. Go to the object data properties, view display in front. There are other tutorials about animating bones and stuff. I'm just gonna show you how to export it so you will know. You can't add multiple armatures. You can only have one armature per model. So we're gonna go in the edit mode, press A to select all the bones, and Shift D to duplicate it, and then right click to just put it somewhere in the middle. Well, you get it. So now we have two bones, right? Let me do some changes here and split this model. Divide, and then select this, split it, fill it, hide, fill it, and hide. Okay, unhide it, solid. Okay. Now we select the mesh first, then holding shift we select the bone, Control P with empty groups. That means we will get our bones will make two vertex groups that we will later assign the mesh to the bone. So with empty groups, select the mesh. As you can see, we have two vertex groups now. The bones names, you can change the bones names, but be sure to be exact. I'm just gonna keep it as default, doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna select this now that it's separated, right? And assign it to bone number 1. Hide it. Select this one and assign it to bone number 2. Okay, so now I'm moving both of the bones. I'm gonna go to the layout, go to the X, select the bone, go to pose mode, and go to the bone. So we're gonna change it to X, Z, X, Y, Z, X, Y. It doesn't really matter, choose something here. I'm gonna select again for the other bone, and there we go. So if I move, if I rotate a bone, it's gonna rotate only one piece, and the other piece. Okay. Next is we're gonna make some animation. Test it out. So we're gonna select bone number 1 and move it by the x-axis and 25 meters, like so, and the last frame 0 meters, and so. Okay, now the other one gonna be 0, 120, -5, and 0. And interpolation linear, interpolation linear. Okay, there we have it. Okay, I'm gonna change the UV, select everything, mode, select the mesh, and UV project, because I don't have time to play with UVs. Next. Oh, if you're pressing armature animation, you will have armature action. That's the name of your animation. That's the name of your exporting animation or file. So I'm gonna rename it rotation text. There we go. Now when you export every file. You don't need the collision, but you can disable the collision in Hammer, so it doesn't really matter. Collision should be there. Okay, now we go to our QC file and delete static prop. We don't need it because it's not a static prop anymore. Oops. There we go. And we add another sequence here. If you're making a static one, you only need the idle sequence because it's not gonna move. So we added a new sequence, and you can name it here whatever you want. And the rotation file you exported, so rotation X. Now we compile, refresh, and there we go. Physics, as you can see, doesn't store information correctly for some reason. I didn't figure it out why, but it shouldn't matter because there is no collision. Maybe it has something to do with the XYZ position or with the bone position, but if I figure it out, I'll let you know. So I'm gonna disable that. As you can see, we have two, idle and whatever you want. So there we go. If I choose idle, it's not gonna move. So here we go. Now you have an animated model that's working inside the game. So we're gonna look at it in Hammer. And in Hammer, let's see, what's this? Oh, this is an old project. Well, so if I were to take a model, right, and change it to our tutorial. And here we go. We have our model here, and if you want to change the oh wait, it's not a prop static anymore, it's a prop dynamic. So idle animation or default animation, you can change it to rotation. No, it's the name of the animation is whatever you want. It's whatever you put here. So idle, it's idle animation, and whatever you want is your second animation. I'm gonna put it whatever I want, or you can add something to change. For example, on fire, on break. Oh, that's output. It's input. No. Yes, everything is correct. So on user or whatever, you can add here, like for example, change that animation, right? And you just write here the animation name, whatever you want, or idle and stuff. This tutorial doesn't cover that because I'm not making a tutorial about hammer and how to do that. Well, that's it. That's about all of it. I'm gonna include all the files you need or all the references, and that's it.